Welcome to the CMO Spotlight, and I'm here with Christi Mason, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of the Slutty Vegan. Welcome, Christi.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here and chatting with you today.
Absolutely. So I wondered if you could start by just telling us more about the Slutty Vegan. For those of us who live in Atlanta, we definitely know this brand. But for those that aren't in Atlanta, can you just tell us a little bit more about Slutty Vegan and what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Slutty Vegan, it has such a powerful story, right? Like I think a lot of people know us for our restaurants, our food trucks, or maybe even you've seen like our retail products and, Target, but like more than anything, Slutty Vegan is a lifestyle brand, and it's very much around kind of the sentiment and the movement that is veganism. And when you visit this brand and when you have the opportunity to interact with this brand, it is truly, truly, truly like nothing else in this entire universe. And I can say that because I've worked on a lot of really, really great brands, but every aspect of what we do, whether you're in our restaurants and, trying out, our one night stand or our fussy hussy or our sloppy toppy or any of our amazing burgers, or if you're, in Target and trying out, our side dip, like we have so much enthusiasm and passion for everything that we do. And it's reflected in all of our products, whether it's our food products. And again, so many people know our restaurants and our food trucks, but we are so excited about what we get to do every day in the food space, every day in the vegan space, every day in the space of supporting and calling out our community. We are a brand that is for and about our culture and our people. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about Slutty Vegan.
Awesome. And just let's dispel a rumor right here that vegan is vegan, right? So there's no animal products in the food. Doesn't always mean totally healthy necessarily, right? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
Yeah, what vegan means for us is delicious flavor, right? Like I think people have this kind of misconception, if you will, that veganism is, all quinoa, like you've got to walk away from anything that was ever delicious or amazing in your life. And that is not what we're about. We have a saying that like everything is banging, like everything is going to taste amazing. Everything is going to kind of meet your cravings. Like it is a food that people want to eat, and it's vegan. So like it has those positive halos and benefits associated with it as well.
Awesome. I love that. So tell us a little bit about your role as Chief Marketing Officer. So I think you're relatively new to the company. You had a pretty corporate background. So tell us about your role there at Slutty Vegan as CMO.
Yeah, so what I get to do every single day is like be inspired by this really great and awesome brand. And it's my job and my responsibility, but like it's also like my distinct honor to be able to go out every day and think about what's possible for the Slutty Vegan brand, what's possible in terms of what we can do and the lives we can impact, and all the really, really great and cool things that come along with being a part of this brand. And every day I get to do it. I'm inspired by it. I'm challenged by it. I am thinking about everything we can do today, everything we can do in the future. And so like it is beyond measure, like that's like the ultimate job for me to be able to be the CMO here at Slutty Vegan.
Cool. So you've had a very interesting career path. I know you began, I think, right out of school at Coca-Cola Company here in Atlanta. And then you moved to Sara Lee in Chicago and worked on some of the various, primarily the meat brands, which makes it a little ironic that now you're working on a brand that's all vegan. All right. And then I think you went to Orlando and worked at Olive Garden, which is part of Darden. But I don't know if you could just give us a little bit more about your career background, like kind of how the arc worked for your career.
Yeah, like I'm happy to. So, I'm from Atlanta originally. So I started my career, as you noted, like at the Coca-Cola Company. And it's really kind of where I fell in love with like marketing and brands, right? And being able to see a brand, that could have easily been in like this very functional space, and to see it kind of, from its inception to grow to like what it is today, which is really like this cultural touchstone, like so far beyond like anything that even remotely seems functional, so far beyond like a beverage category, like it's a memory, it's a moment, it's a feeling. And it just kind of sparked like my love and passion for marketing. And I left in 2008 and went to business school up in the University of Chicago, which was just such a interesting time because of the start of the Great Recession. It was like, oh, wow, like now I've quit my job and I'm in business school. Let's hope this all works out. And it did. So like I stayed in Chicago for a while. I worked with the Sara Lee Corporation at the time, initially in strategy and innovation, and And then I moved over to like you said, to the meats brands, and worked on Jimmy Dean. And I got a call about a role that was down in Orlando with Darden Restaurants, working on the Olive Garden brand. And I was intrigued. Like, I spent, all this time thinking about food and beverage brands in the CPG space. And, I never worked in restaurants. And so I was intrigued, and I went down to work on Darden with Olive Garden, and just fell in love with like the restaurant space. Like, if you've never spent any time in restaurants, like, they're so incredibly dynamic. Things change all the time. You get to do so much and touch so many different things. And they are touched, everything from advertising to social, to in restaurant, to out of home, like so many different things, and everything moves so quickly. I just fell in love with it, and kind of the space of restaurants. And after I left Darden, I came back up to Atlanta. I worked on the Arby's brand, which of course was all about the meats, and I worked at a brand that is absolutely not about meat.
Right.
But just a really tremendous brand with so many great things. Is that they embarked on the we got the meats campaign, and what that meant for kind of the creation of momentum, the new creation of momentum behind a brand that it had a bit of a storied past. And so I enjoyed working there. And again, like I said, I already fallen in love with like restaurants, and had done hospitality, but not hotels. And Intercontinental Hotels Group reached out to me about a role on the Holiday Inn Express brand. And I was like, hey, like hospitality, but not restaurants per se. Let's see what that's kind of about. And spent almost 4 years there working on Holiday Inn Express, and another really tremendous brand with a really great history, and like this great trajectory, not only within the United States but globally. And then took on the role of head of restaurant and bar for their mainstream brand. So then I had a team here in Atlanta, and a team that was based out of Denham, which is right outside of London, and enjoyed doing that, and got a call about Krispy Kreme up in North Carolina. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I love Krispy Kreme donuts. And went up there and worked on that brand, which was kind of like my return to the restaurant space kind of full time. And just had a tremendous amount of time playing around with the brand that just brings so much joy to consumers every single day. And love doing that, and wasn't necessarily looking for anything new or different. And not too shortly, after, I got a call about Slutty Vegan. And like I said before, Slutty Vegan is really unlike any brand I've had a chance to work on. And I hold dear to my heart every brand that I've had a chance to work on. But Slutty Vegan really, really, really is something different. And I like to say it's like this cultural force of nature. It has like this unique magnetism and an energy that it enthralls and enjoys,
Well, and obviously, just speaking of Slutty Vegan, it is intentionally very provocative and intentionally playful in terms of the brand and the way that it presents the brand. And obviously, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. What I like to say about Slutty Vegan though is like, is incredibly authentic, right? Like, when you kind of talk about, how it presents itself, it's not really so much as presenting itself, it's being itself. Like the brand is truly a reflection of the authenticity of the founder, of the sense of who and what, veganism can be. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun every single day to do what we do.
Awesome. So I'm curious if there's a piece of advice that either you wish you'd gotten early in your career, or maybe you would give to somebody that's pretty young in their marketing career, just starting out.
Yeah. The thing I'd say to a certain extent is like, touch a little bit of everything, right? Like, in my career, I've had the chance to do a lot of different stuff and work in a lot of different categories and a lot of different products, and, products at different life stages, whether like, it's new or product that's kind of maturing in its category, or, a product that is regional in nature. I've had roles that have been very quantitatively focused, and certainly like when you start off in marketing, particularly in CPG marketing, you do a lot of quantitative work where you're looking at, volume numbers, and you're thinking through kind of, placement, and you're thinking through like, shopper marketing and your trade spend. Like you spend a lot of time in numbers. And it's beneficial. It's beneficial to have kind of this sense of understanding how the math works, understanding, not only kind of that top line growth, but being able to follow those dollars to the P&L and think through, the decisions that you make. It's been beneficial to me to be able to work in the space of, advertising and digital and social, like the brand aspect of brand management, and being able to understand kind of the fundamentals of a brand architecture, and think through how does that impact, decisions we make on what products we launch or products that we don't launch. And so, from my perspective, I think probably the thing that's most beneficial is being able to have those different, types of marketing roles, to have those types of different brands, because ultimately it gives you the tool set, to be able to work at increasingly higher levels within the organization, because you understand what's necessary to build a brand for long-term success.
And so you've got to be open to those roles and those opportunities that stretch you and give you an opportunity to try something totally different.
Yeah, you absolutely do have to be open to it. And, I'd say probably a different thing, which is to a certain extent, like you should be looking for those, like look for the opportunities that give you, like a new, perspective on how you go about marketing, that challenge your assumptions. Some of the things that I've learned the most have been on very, very tricky, projects or very tricky brands where like there was an interesting challenge that we were trying to solve for. So I say look for those things, and be clear on like building out your skill set so that you can call upon those experiences down the road.
Absolutely. So I believe everybody has a superpower, and I'm curious what you think your superpower is.
Oh my gosh. I think mine is, like making really complex things simple. It's kind of where I thrive, and it is interesting to me because I think people can get mired down in, the details, or you can get mired down in like, how big something is, and you can get to a place where like you kind of admire the problem, right? And I think like anything, like a challenge is really just breaking down the pieces and understanding, what variables can be moved around, and starting to play with those variables, so that you get to a solution. So, for me, I think it's very much like making very complex things simple, and making them approachable. I think, and then I say probably from just a personality perspective, like I'm a person who questions things a lot. And so, I think being able to genuinely have an interest in other people's perspectives and points of view, and being able to use that both from the perspective of building relationships, but also, again, to kind of break down challenges and questions, has been kind of fruitful for me.
I love that. I'm a challenger also, and I like it.
There you go. I love that, Joe. I love it.
Exactly. So I'm curious if there are certain values that you want to demonstrate as a leader, or maybe values that you would demand of anybody on your team.
Yeah, I say kind of to that last point, like intellectual curiosity is like is really, really important to me. Like by no means do I think that I have, the answer for all things. And, I like to be challenged. I like for people to share, a different perspective or question the things that, that I may hold. I heard this quote once at one point that was like, hold your opinions and hold your, your thoughts and beliefs, but, hold them lightly, right? So like, it is good to have a perspective. A perspective is pretty much the job from a marketing, point of view. So have those, but like be willing to, kind of evolve your way of thinking about things, evolve like your point of view and your perspective, based on the information at hand. So that is important to me. I'd say, another thing that's important to me is like, integrity, right? Life and decision making, all of those things can be challenging at times, but it's important for you to be able to both stand on, kind of what you've aligned to do, but also, admit it and say when things don't go well also, because, invariably those are lessons learned. And you can't have that learning if you're not willing to kind of look at results and honestly assess like where you stand with things.
100%. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So here at Setup, we exist to help marketers thrive by bringing them together with the best people and the best resources. And that often means that we're connecting brands and marketing agencies together. And so either at Slutty Vegan or maybe in a previous life, I'm just curious how generally you like to work with marketing agencies, or you have worked with marketing agencies in your career.
Yeah, It varies, and it is certainly to a certain extent based on like their remit and their scope of work, and in terms of how you engage. But like I think where you get kind of the richest kind of return on your efforts and your investment is when your agency partners are really extensions of your team, like when they have a keen sense of the challenges and the opportunities that are presenting themselves to you as a business, and they can help you with trying to think through, okay, what is the path forward? If this is what we're trying to accomplish, what does the solution look like? If we are if we're looking to to hit these specific set of deliverables, like what are some of those mandatory? So I think having this kind of honest and open and extension of the team type mentality, I think works best in terms of agency management. And then I say, similarly to my point earlier, like a degree of openness and candor is important as well.
So are there certain disciplines within marketing that you would typically like to keep in-house and not get external perspective? And are there certain other disciplines that you really would value and cherish getting an outsider's perspective?
I think it's an interesting question because like the pendulum type, it kind of swings depending on what you're talking about, right? Like there are moments where, for example, like, all of social was kind of was in-house, and then it was like, no, it's all outside. And so like it kind of like goes like this back and forth type thing. And I think it honestly depends on like the organization and what you're trying to solve for, right? Like I think things like brand marketing, campaign marketing, these are things that you definitely want continuous and ongoing open dialogue with your agency partners on, right? And certainly the upfront work that companies and brands have to do to make sure that they have a strong brief, they understand the direction that they are wanting to go, and what success looks like. All of those things are incredibly important. But a lot of the magic in terms of being able to take those kind of organizational insights, those organizational desires and ask, and being able to translate into that into actual creative that's going to move the needle, that's going to make consumers excited. Like those things really reside kind of within the world of the agency. You want to empower them to be able to take your words and put that into that really great, powerful, creative that's going to resonate with consumers. There are other things, however, that like that truly do work better, like within kind of the organization itself, and like data mining and data integrity and using the data to come up with those business kind of insights and imperatives. Like those are things that organizations just simply know better, right? Like how your business responds and performs, kind of the movement and wave of kind of performance within the organization. And so those types of things are better had, internally. Now, that's not to say that, you can use a partner to be able to help like interpret this, like the data says this, how do you see this manifesting? Or, I believe that this is an insight based on what I've seen. And can you share with me, what other brands are up to, or what do you see out there in the creative space that, kind of mimics what we're seeing internally, and what solutions have you seen? So like, I think those pieces of it, while the upfront and upstream very much lives with the brand, the downstream kind of interpretation and putting that again into action is something you can definitely leverage an agency partner to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious if there was ever a program or a campaign that you ran either at Slutty Vegan or in a past life that taught you something hugely valuable, either because it was a big flop and you learned something you needed to learn, or maybe it was a big success that you'd like to emulate again in the future if possible.
Yeah, recency is always a bit of a bias, but like certainly for me, like, a few months ago, we did kind of the Slutty Vegan brand wedding. It was like the first wedding that like we'd ever, done, as a brand. We did it in celebration of this really cool couple that we found and kind of fell in love with. And we did it on Valentine's Day. It's like when everything kind of unfolded and fans were able to follow along with their story. And like, what I love about it is the fact that like it is very much around kind of the spirit of this brand, to do things that that really resonate with consumers, to find someone, a couple who had a really great and rich story, and create something special for them. And in no way did we try to to use that without anything other than the best intentions in terms of being able to deliver that moment. But it was also very much branded, right? So it was in our restaurant. Everything had kind of a bit of a Slutty Vegan flair associated with it. Even their vowels kind of had things like our product names in them a little bit, right? So like it was like all this from the flour girls, like through fries instead of flour. So like all of those types of moments, all of those little brand touches along the way that made it, brand curated, but it was still very much around this couple and the celebration of love, which is in fact, the whole reason for the Valentine's holiday. So a really great example of like how a brand could be a part of a moment, a part of an occasion, and do so in a way that feels authentic and furthers kind of the brand kind of love that exists.
That's so much fun. And also what a great way to bring your fans into the conversation, because obviously they were following along this whole story, it sounds like. And also you probably created some nice assets that you can use in the future in terms of content.
All of those things, Joe, all of those things.
Love it. All right. So I want to wrap things up with some fun questions that aren't necessarily marketing specific, but just for fun. The first is there a sports team or a quote or a book or a movie or a band that inspires you, and what is it about that thing that inspires you?
Yeah, I read this quote like a while ago from Albert Einstein. It says, "Imagination is more important than intelligence and or knowledge," right? And like there's this sense of always like being the most prolific in terms of the facts, or kind of this never ending kind of sense of wanting to know everything that there is to know, right? But at the end of the day, right, like some things are knowable, but to a large extent, like a lot of life and a lot of success is like, being imaginative, being deeply imaginative, and thinking about how can you, use what you know, but not rely so heavily on the data that you become, paralyzed, that you're able to think creatively about, either solutions or products or just random things that are going to, bring a smile to someone's face. And so like this idea that imagination is powerful, and that you can play in that space and be able to do something super, super amazing is it just resonates with me. And of course, I find myself in the marketing area, which is very much kind of that amalgamation of like creativity and like thinking through things and data and all of those things. So it always inspired me, because I think imagination is the one of the elements we don't spend enough time thinking about. It's not something that's always in the forefront of our minds, but it's super, super powerful.
Well, it's kind of like the old joke, I guess not a joke, but like we're all artists when we're little kids, and we in school, and then school beats it out of us over time, right? like we lose our imagination a little bit, and I think for those of us who can stay childlike in our imagination, that's a powerful tool in a toolbox, particularly for a marketer, right?
Yeah. I think it definitely is. And there's allow it, right? Like they're brands who have like a tremendous amount of white space and like the ability to like, fill that in and color it however you want to color it, and make it into whatever you think the possibilities are. Like it creates this endless sense of, possibility, which I think is really, really, really cool.
Well, so speaking of brands, I'm curious if there's a brand that you really love or respect or admire that you've never gotten the chance to work on, and what is it about that brand that you admire so much?
From my perspective, like I've had a chance to work on like a lot of different brands. And so, I think for me, like where my mind tends to go is like I've always been in the space of like either, CPG or, hospitality and restaurants and whatnot. I've never worked on anything that's either in the political space or in the space of like individuals as brands, because individuals are brands as well. And to be kind of, the brain trust behind someone who's doing amazing things in the world, or changing how we see the world, or impacting the future of the world. Like it's a space I haven't been, but like it definitely feels like one of those kind of frontier type things that I would be open to kind of down the road.
Nice. All right, I want to wrap things up with one final question, which is just outside of your family, because that's often just an obvious answer. Where do you find joy outside of work? Do you have any hobbies or things you love to do?
Yeah, I love to read. So like I have like this I laugh because like I have like a whole set of books behind me, but then I have like a whole set of books upstairs, and like invariably like I'll be, oh, this is my next book. So then like it ends up like being this huge, stack of books. I'm reading all these books, which is crazy. But like I truly love like reading. I love words. I love language. I love everything associated with that. Reading and writing are like, things that mean a lot to me. And honestly, I love to be entertained. Like live shows, I love whether they're concerts or comedy shows or anything that creates like this almost like emotional connection and takes you on like a bit of a journey into like cool and fun things. I enjoy doing that as well.
I love that. Well, so name one genre of books that you enjoy. Like, is there a specific genre that you prefer, or is it a big mix?
It's I tend to like things that have like a mystery component associated with them. But I and I am probably weird in this regard, but like mysteries that have a bit of like a comical element to it always get me. It's the same with movies, like when it has like a little bit of like the thread that they're pulling on that you're trying to unravel and figure out what's going to happen, and that's, but if they get you with a couple of good laughs, like they've got me sold.
I love that. That's great. Well, I think sometimes when you're talking about dark things, you have to like lighten the
Yeah,
mood in some way. So that's, I think
exactly.
there's something to be said for the balance of dark,
Yeah.
but dark and light, and little humor twists to something that's maybe.
Yeah, a nice little surprise, right?
Yeah.
Around each corner.
Yeah. Well, Christi Mason is the Chief Marketing Officer of the Slutty Vegan. Christi, this has been such an amazing conversation, and I'm so pleased to get a chance to talk to you today.
The same, Joe. It's time well spent on this end also. I appreciate it.